Welcome to Nonprofit Stories, inspiring tales from Silicon Valley. We will explore the transformative work of nonprofit organizations and leaders who are changing our community by tackling some of the most pressing issues facing Silicon Valley. So without further ado, let's dive into this exciting conversation. Today, we welcome Dina Trujillo, CEO of Crisis Text Line. Crisis Text Line's vision is to create an empathetic world where nobody feels alone. Thank you to our sponsor, TradeMyHome.com, for their community commitment and for making this podcast possible. From 2019 to 2022, Silicon Valley experienced a 45% increase in mental health service demand and a 30% rise in suicide rates among adults 25 to 44, underscoring and deepening crisis. Additionally, over 50% cite cost as a major barrier to accessing care, reflecting significant economic disparities. Before we dive into the conversation, let's learn a little about the organization's great work so far. And now your host of Nonprofit Stories, Dee Kiso.
A woman I know and admire, and I consider a friend. Welcome, Dina Trujillo.
Thank you, Dee. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. So let's jump in and why don't you tell everybody what is Crisis Text Line?
Yeah, so we are a free 24/7 emotional support and mental health text line. So people, and think of it as a mental health emergency room, whether you're experiencing loneliness, suicidal ideation, anxiety, bullying, you can text home to 741-741 at any point in time in English and Spanish, and you will be connected to a trained, empathetic individual to meet you in that moment. Whatever is a crisis to you is a crisis to us.
What inspired the Crisis Text Line? How did this all come about?
Yeah, so really 10 years ago when this was founded, young people were communicating with each other via text, but the only support lines available were by voice and by phone. And they were also very specific for suicide or eating disorders or abuse. And the reality is that young people needed something, a modality that they trusted, and also needed a more broad-based support network to be able to call. And so it was started as an experiment and really has grown so much since then to not just be about supporting young people, but to be about supporting anyone, and has grown to realize how much our volunteers are actually so critical to the service. We've trained over 75,000 volunteers here in the United States alone in the last 10 years. And because it's text-based, we're contributing to research that's changing the sector.
What changes then have you seen in mental health in Silicon Valley?
Oh, yes. So I live here in San Jose, in Silicon Valley. Crisis Text Line is absolutely national. So we support all 50 states plus Puerto Rico. And we also provide the technology for other countries, but we'll focus more on the U.S. for now. When we look at the Silicon Valley, there are some changes really that have happened over the last several years. A significant increase from about 32% of conversations coming to Crisis Text Line up to 35% of conversations have been focused on anxiety and stress. We've also seen a significant increase in financial anxiety.
Excellent data.
Yeah, so we are lucky because we have people reaching out to us directly and of all ages, we're able to get a pulse on what's changing over time. So like when COVID was hitting, like March of 2020, we had states around the country, including California, that were reaching out to us to try and get a pulse for how people were feeling, because most other mental health data is 2 years old. And because we're text-based and because we're built to do research and understand data, we're able to get like a real-time pulse on people's emotional and mental health status.
Wow. So what kind of strategies are you using to align yourself with tech companies?
So we are tech through and through, right? So we utilize, I would say, technology companies. Being here from Silicon Valley is very easy to see. We use a lot of technology. So everything in order to just provide our service. And then, of course, we have technology partners, because technology partners, like any company, need to take care of their employees and be aware of their customers. And so I would say one of the biggest ways in Silicon Valley that we partner is we partner with large tech companies, sometimes trust and safety departments. They have to pay attention to what their customers are searching for. If they're searching for data that is or for information around self-harm or suicide, what are they going to do with that? So we partner with them so that they can recommend that their customers to come to us and get help. We also, tech companies will help to make sure that our service is available to their employees. And when they are recommending to their customers or employees to use our service, then we can help them to understand trends. Everything is de-identified, anonymized. Nobody gets any private information about anybody, but we can help companies say, your customers have been doing not only searching on suicide, those customers you send to us, but they are talking to us about eating disorders and bullying. And so you really should look more at that content. So we help them to make sure that their customers are getting more of the support that they need. We give them insight into how they can create healthier environments for their employees and their customers.
So would you call it a proactive approach?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so in Silicon Valley, we're always looking for partners to spread the awareness of the service, but also so that we can work together in making sure that employees and customers are getting the support that they need.
What's been your biggest challenge then in scaling your efforts in Silicon Valley?
Honestly, awareness, really, because marketing is expensive, right? And there's a lot of noise out there. And so even though for students, for instance, 741-741, which is our number, Crisis Text Line is on the back of every single student ID in the state of California, and so throughout Silicon Valley. Yet we need more than one touch point to understand where do we reach out. And so our biggest challenge really is raising awareness about service and then fundraising, of course, because it takes people and marketing to actually do that awareness building and that partnership building.
So how do you fundraise?
I've been speaking a lot about partnerships. And so we love our individual donors. We have our monthly empathy network of our monthly donors. We have high net worth individuals. So we love engaging with individuals that support our work, which is important because we touched the lives of so many people, right? We de-escalate somebody from self-harm or suicide every 30 minutes. So there's a lot of individuals and families that have a direct impact on their lives. And we are so honored to engage with them from a fundraising standpoint. But when I talk about partnership, one of the things that really helps is these corporate partners where we do get a financial donation or a fee for service for supporting corporations in recommending our number and help giving them insight.
So tell me more about data playing a role in the Crisis Text Line.
Data is huge for us because, one, we have to be able to make sure that we are really and truly serving the needs of those that come to us. It means we have to be able to get to them quickly. We have to be able to make sure that we have a high quality service, and so we utilize data from beginning to end. When somebody first texts us, those first couple automated messages where we ask what your crisis is are being assessed on the back end with a machine learning algorithm that we have made over the years to help determine which conversations are most likely to be imminent risk. Those conversations are then pushed to the front of any queue. So we try to be very quick, hopefully connecting with everybody under a minute or 5 minutes. But if there is a person that has been identified as high risk, they are connected almost immediately to someone. Then on the back end, after conversations take place, we utilize data to assess the effectiveness of our service and to do research that contributes to the field. So we have an anonymized data set that we've supported almost 10 million conversations in the last 10 years. We're just shy of that. We'll be to 10 million in just the next couple months. And our data scientists are able to utilize natural language processing, so AI and machine learning, to go into our anonymized data sets and pull up research on things like what helps young people to support their own mental health and well-being, things like the arts, things like outdoor spaces. We're able to contribute that research to other nonprofits and to the sector so that then they can connect their work to mental health. We're able to do research to help the CDC identify suicidal means by age and demographic. We are helping the entire crisis intervention space improve how quality is assessed. So data is literally the bread and butter that makes our service totally unique and helps to make sure that we're able to provide the best possible support to both our volunteers and our texters.
So are you conducting some kind of research to see the effectiveness of those conversations, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So our data is unique. When you look at most other mental health data in the space, it's either based on surveys that can be taken when people are in various different moods, or hand-coded records that might be 2 years old by the time it gets to research that's shared with the sector. We're built to track data where our texters are given the option of completing a survey afterwards, and 20% do. Our volunteers are completing surveys on what the topics were for every conversation, and then we actually have the conversation data. For all of this, we're very, very careful about privacy and making sure that texters have the opportunity to delete their conversation data if they want. But this information is used for both assessing quality and for learning to share with the sector broadly. So yes, it's assessing quality, but it's doing so much more.
Why did you transition from the Omidyar network to the crisis text line?
Oh, I was so blessed and lucky to have the opportunity to work for 17 years for Pam and Pierre Omidyar. And Pierre was the founder of eBay. And that job taught me so much. And I, after 17 years, realized that I needed to be more on the front lines. I was supporting entrepreneurs all over the world, social impact entrepreneurs that were utilizing technology and business models to make the world a better place. But I didn't have that frontline experience myself. And so it was time to not just fund and advise, but get my hands dirty and actually do the work. The reason that I was drawn to Crisis Text Line specifically is because we're in the middle of a mental health crisis, right? Like we really are. Like as a country and as a world, we are both in a mental health crisis and a loneliness crisis. And I think after COVID, it's hard for anybody to really deny that. And I took over Crisis Text Line during COVID in a moment where it was clear the mental health impacts of isolation and fear that were happening to everyone. So whereas before, when I was on the board of Crisis Text Line, I was having to educate people on why a mental health text line, why was that important? And now I don't have to explain why anymore, because everybody has either been experiencing challenges themselves, or they're seeing it in their coworkers, or they're seeing it in their children. And I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son, and I know the statistics. I know that 1 in 6 young people has a suicidal plan actively. And if they're girls, it's 1 in 5. And so every time I see my children's friends, I am reminded of how important this work is. And so when I asked myself what role I could play in moving from being on the philanthropic side with Omidyar Network to being on the front line and wanting to play an operating role with a nonprofit, I couldn't be more honored, and couldn't see something more important than maybe the environment. But like, really, mental health is such a critical issue for our children and our families in our society, that I had to throw my hat in the ring and do this work.
A typical problem homeowners have when wanting to buy a new home is whether to sell first or buy first. Either way is risky. When ready to look for a new home, TradeMyHome.com, powered by Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, offers an upfront guaranteed cash offer on your current home. Are you moving in the next 3 to 6 months? Text PAIR to 408-740-7400 for a free and no-obligation professional equity appraisal report, exclusively for Nonprofit Stories podcast viewers. For more information, visit TradeMyHome.com or call 408-740-7400. Remember, at TradeMyHome.com, your home is sold guaranteed or we'll buy it.
So how is Silicon Valley's innovation a super partner with the Crisis Text Line?
Yeah, I mean, so Silicon Valley and innovation are core to who we are, right? I just told you that I came from the founder of eBay, another Silicon Valley company, and I was blessed to be able to learn from and with one of Silicon Valley's great entrepreneurs in thinking about, how do we do things differently? How do we utilize technology and business models to create solutions at the size of the problem? And there's no better place to think about those solutions than here. And so it really, so many people in Silicon Valley are my advisors, are our advisors. So many Silicon Valley companies are our partners, because the work is not done. Like, this crisis, this mental health crisis is getting worse. And so we have to find ways to help people be more aware of the service, and to find ways of preventing people from needing to be able to text in the first place. And, some of the solutions are here.
If you had a magic wand,
Yeah.
and you had one giant wish, what would be the one thing that you would wish for to cure this mental? What is the one big mover?
I have a new answer to that. And that's because of our new research around our volunteers. I told you we trained almost 75,000 volunteers in the U.S. And we have found that those volunteers, 2/3 of them say that their own mental health and wellness, their own mental health and wellness is improved as a result of the training they do with us and the act of supporting and helping others. And 90% say that they bring back the skills that they learned: empathy, active listening, de-escalation, the ability to hold space for people that are different than them without judgment, something that our country is sorely lacking right now. 90% of our volunteers bring those skills back to their family, to their communities, to their workplaces. And so if I could wave my magic wand, it would be that everybody had this training. Because our phones, also, especially for young people, have taught us to lose communication skills. And we've actually found that using the phone and the computer to train these skills is actually developing the skills so well that they're taking them offline into their lives. And that is preventing people from needing to call in the first place, because they're better parents and they're better able to connect with each other and not be so lonely. And they're better able to de-escalate in their homes and in their communities so that they don't need to reach outside for help. And that is what we need more than anything.
What is the training?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so our training's free. So you can go to crisistextline.org, and it is remote. It is so from the comfort of your couch and your home, you can take this asynchronous training. We also have some simulators to help people practice. And then the beautiful thing is that you do have to be over 18 in order to be a volunteer. But then that training, you take that and then you're ready to help people in their moments of need, but you're not alone, because our platform is developed so that we have professional clinical supervisors overseeing every single conversation.
How long is the training? I know it's
so it used to be 30 hours. The reason I'm stopping is because it used to be 30 hours. We're relaunching it next week, and I think it's about 17 now. Yeah, so we've got some. Because we are always trying to learn and get better, is our training's been about 30 hours. We brought in some education experts that assessed our training versus other mental health trainings in the space, and really found, first of all, that our training is quite exceptional, and it teaches rapport building and de-escalation in a way that none of the other trainings do, but also helped us to see that we could be a little bit more efficient. We didn't have to repeat ourselves so much, so we're able to cut it down. I think we launch it next week, and I think it's going to be somewhere between 17 to 20 hours, so it will be more accessible to more people.
I can't wait.
Me too.
Why do tech workers tend to benefit so much from Crisis Text Line?
Well, so first of all, everybody does, right? Like, that's one of the things that we've really found in our research, is that it doesn't matter age, gender, demographic, job, part of the country. Anyone truly benefits from and receives equal satisfaction and quality of support through our service. But when I think about folks in the tech space, I think about what we've been learning around loneliness. So there's specifically, like, if you look at people, especially people that are in the engineering field, or folks that play a lot of video games, people that are more connected to computer a lot of the day, what we're seeing is some serious trends around loneliness. And so one of the beautiful things is that we're a loneliness solution for both the texter and the volunteer, right? So texters are able to reach out anytime they're lonely or depressed, and and volunteers are able to connect and help people and be in community with each other. So there are not that many. I don't know if you know, the Surgeon General put out a report last year, right, on loneliness as a part of a real epidemic. And it is both, it is not the same thing as mental health, but they have a relationship that amplifies each other, loneliness and mental health. And so loneliness is a real issue. And there just aren't that many solutions at scale, right? And we had 15,000 volunteers last year, right? And so this is something tangible that gives people a sense of purpose and connection.
Can anyone become a volunteer?
Yes, anybody over 18, you apply, and anybody can be a volunteer. And then we have the supports there to make sure that we're providing feedback and that all of our volunteers are providing a quality service. But quite frankly, even those that just take our training receive significant benefit and report that they have significant benefit and utilize those skills.
Well, I'm thinking as Memorial Day is coming up, there's so many veterans out there who suffer from anxiety and loneliness and PTSD. And I'm wondering, might they be candidates for this training?
Oh, okay. You were speaking near and dear to my heart, Dee Dee, because you know this. My husband is a veteran. And so veterans hold a special place in my heart. And we've actually been, I won't say the organizations, but we're talking to a couple military-related organizations right now because we think that we know that this training would be a huge benefit, not just for veterans themselves, but also for their families, because it's about recognizing and creating that supportive environment and knowing how to communicate. But there's something I forgot to say earlier, which is the beauty of text. So one of the kind of things that we discovered that's really incredible about text-based support is you can be anywhere. So we have people texting us in the middle of their holiday meals because of the stressful conversations they're in. We have police officers and nurses texting us when they're on duty and they're dealing with PTSD, or students that are at school or in parties experiencing bullying or pressure to do drugs, or executives who are texting us in boardrooms because they're having a hard time and dealing with stress. And nobody knows. Nobody thinks twice about somebody being on their phone. Meanwhile, they're getting advice and validation and affirmation from somebody that is trained and caring to help them through that moment. It really is a beautiful tool.
Well, let's touch base a little bit on the diverse demographic of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And of course, our whole country.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
So first of all, when you look at who is utilizing our service, I love the fact that by race and ethnicity, we map basically to the census. Our service is as diverse as our country is. And when we evaluate, and we have had both third-party evaluators and in-house evaluators really test the quality of our service based on demographics to make sure that we are servicing everyone. But one of the most important things is people ultimately just need to connect with other people, and they need to be seen, right? Like they're not actually seeing each other with their eyes, but they need to be seen and heard and validated. And those are the skills that we teach. One of my favorite things is that we have, conservative Republicans supporting, liberal LGBTQ youth in Miami and creating like the things that when we look on the news look impossible are happening every single day on our text platform, because humans are just there to support other humans in their moments of pain and their moments of need. And that goes for Silicon Valley and people operating in the technology industry to, across the board to everyone.
How has your background influenced the crisis text line?
Yeah. So I talked earlier about Omidyar Network and having the benefit of being able to work and learn from Pierre Omidyar and many other executives that had experience in Silicon Valley. And my job for many years was to look all over the world to find solutions that utilize technology and business models to empower people and find solutions to our biggest problems. And so that learning and that experience not only helped me find Crisis Text Line and decide to commit myself to Crisis Text Line, but it also has helped me to really think about the importance of research, the importance of how we can utilize data to improve our operations, how we can utilize partnerships like corporate partnerships to help us be sustainable, right? How we can utilize technology to scale not just in the US, but internationally. I mean, really, all of my experience, both on the philanthropy side and working with executives here from Silicon Valley, has helped to make sure that we're utilizing business practices and technology and the latest technology in everything that we do. I mean, there are a lot of people right now asking, how can you use AI and use AI safely in the nonprofit space? And we're really one of the only ones that are using it on the front lines of our service, not just how to become more efficient with our emails or fundraising, but how do we constantly improve? How are we using machine learning? How are we using data and AI safely? How are we becoming more efficient? How are we sharing learning with the sector? That's literally what we do all day, every day, to make sure that our techsters are safe, our volunteers are empowered, and that we are helping millions and millions of people.
Do middle schoolers use your services? What are the younger ages?
Yeah, so really we support, I think the youngest age that I'm aware of is 8, all the way to people in their 80s, right? Anybody that has a phone or can text, or we're also available by web chat. And we do find that there's a difference in topics by age, but right now about 70%, so we had 1.3 million conversations last year, and 70% of those were 24 and under, and 14% of those were 14 and under. So we do see a large percent of our conversations coming from young people. Yeah, and I'll also say our volunteers are fascinating. Same thing, anywhere from 18 to over 70. But 55% of our volunteers are between the ages of 18 and 24. They're looking for these skills to support themselves. They're looking for these skills to support their peers. They're curious about mental health and service as a career. So we really are helping. We're helping every age group, but young people in particular.
Well, young people are such a give-back community, too.
They are. Absolutely are.
How does a crisis text line collaborate with other organizations in the tech field or corporation?
Yeah. So we are the challenges that we have around mental health cannot be solved by any one organization, right? Like to address this crisis, we have to do it together. And together means individuals, nonprofits, government agencies at the local and federal level, and for-profits. And so we have over 200 partnerships here in the U.S., everything from, the Boys and Girls Club to Santa Clara County to TikTok and AWS and Discord and Xbox, right? So all sorts of technology companies. And so what partnership looks like really depends. So first of all, anybody can share the number for free. It's a free number. Text home to 741-741. And then we can have partnerships where we can create custom materials. We every year we come out with materials to support teachers and support schools. So those are freely available to be distributed and shared with schools. But we also do have specific partnerships with school districts and universities and counties, where, as I shared earlier, the same goes with corporations and other nonprofits. We can help them provide the service of letting people know about the number. We can help them with lessons and trends so that they can better support their community of employees and customers or people that they serve, and that we can spread the skills through volunteers. So some companies will have volunteer programs with us because they find that it helps their employees to increase the amount of active listening and empathy and have those skills within their employee force. So really, if people want to partner with us, then ping me on LinkedIn, reach out on our website, and we will reach out to connect and find a way to together help people in their greatest moments of need.
This is awesome, and I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to remind our listeners to reach out to Dina Trujillo There's a wonderful program starting next week. By the time you see this, it'll be 17 to 20 hours that you will be able to take this training and help yourself, help others, and possibly become a volunteer with this wonderful organization. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Dina.
Thank you. Can I add one more thing?
Please.
Which is every time I speak, I ask people to please get out their phones and in their contact list, please put in crisis text line or crisis line, whatever you want to call it, but please put in 741-741 so that you can, and then go home and do the same with your children. Because it is often in the middle of the night when we are alone that we are most in need of somebody to talk to. And that is when you are going to want that number. So please, in your phones, put in 741-741 so that we can be there for you or your children when you need us most.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee Dee. And thank you, Nonprofit Stories. This is a beautiful thing that you're doing.
Here's a sneak peek of the next episode of Nonprofit Stories, featuring Paul DeMarco, founder and director of No Time to Waste.
Teacher to No Time to Waste is in 2013, I had an idea where I wanted to get back to my community, and I wanted to...
Their mission is to provide donated food and essential goods for those in need in Silicon Valley.
...job, but I did have summers that were open. So I did the paperwork needed to form a 501c3 organization, and I focused on food recovery.
Check out our full episode on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock Pacific and 8 o'clock Eastern on YouTube. Thank you for listening to the podcast and acknowledging the impactful work of nonprofits in Silicon Valley. Please subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Thank you to our sponsor, TradeMyHome.com, for their community commitment and for making this podcast possible. Until next time, remember to support local nonprofits.